A couple of years ago, I lost my cookie sheets, which is hard because cookie sheets are big and there are not that many places where they can fit. But they weren't in the drawer underneath my stove where we keep them. So I looked everywhere else in my kitchen and I couldn't find them. So I started looking everywhere else I could think that cookie sheets might fit. I looked behind my television and under the beds and in the trunk of my car, and there were no cookie sheets. No sane person would put cookie sheets in any of those places. But I had been doing some strange things. A few weeks before that, my daughter, Eva, went to a slumber party. And I was awakened the next morning with this frantic phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning. "Where's Eva?" And I thought, this was the girl's mother. "Eva's at your house." And then I thought, wait, I think Eva's in her bedroom. And I went and I looked, and Eva was asleep in her bed, and the events of the past night started coming back to me. Eva had called me at about 2 in the morning crying because one of the girls at the party was being mean to her. And she asked me if I would come and pick her up. And I said, sure. And I drove over to the house and I picked her up and I drove her back home and we went to sleep. I apologized profusely to the girl's mother. And for weeks I wondered how I could have been so irresponsible that I picked my daughter up from somebody's house in the middle of the night and didn't tell them. Another morning, I got a text from my sister, and she said, "You were up late last night." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "You commented on every single Facebook post I made for the past year." I didn't remember doing that. But when I logged onto my account, it started coming back to me, and some of the comments sounded like things I would say, and some of the comments just sounded like my id had had a field day. But the instance that scared me the most involved The Walking Dead. I'm a big fan, and I wouldn't let my daughter watch it because I felt like it was kind of horrifying and gory and scary. There's a scene at the end of season 7 that was so gruesome for me, so scary, that it haunted me for months. And one day I was talking to my daughter, and she mentioned having seen this. And I said, "What do you mean you saw that?" And she said, "Remember you showed it to me?" And I said, "I did not." And she said, "Yes, I came into your room one night and I told you that I really wanted to see this scene that had upset you so much, and you pulled it up on your computer and you showed it to me." And as she's saying this, I'm remembering it and I'm appalled at myself, and I thought, something is very wrong. So I went to my doctor and I told her what had been happening. A couple of months before this, I had gone to that doctor for help with insomnia, and she had prescribed Ambien, which is a sleeping pill. When I told her what had been happening, she said, "When you take Ambien, it has to be the last thing you do before your head hits the pillow. You cannot go on social media. You cannot have a conversation with anyone. When you take Ambien, you have to go right to sleep and stay asleep for 7 hours. If you don't, you can go into this hypnotic state and do things like sleep driving, which is an actual thing." So my first thought when she told me this was, I wish you'd told me that when you prescribed it to me. And my second thought was, that doesn't work in my life. I am the only adult in my house. If my daughter needs me in the middle of the night, the person who helps her needs to be a rational, responsible adult and not some lunatic without any boundaries. So I had to give up taking the Ambien, and I gave up on finding my cookie sheets. Until last month, when my daughter was putting some pans away in the drawer underneath the stove, and it jammed, So I pulled the whole drawer out, and there, underneath the stove, on the floor where they'd been gathering dust for the past 2 years, were my cookie sheets.